In the sterile fluorescence of Stanford's Hewlett Teaching Center, during the 2019 International Symposium on Quantum Physics, I first saw him. Dr. Dennis Carson sat alone in the back row, 3 empty seats flanking him like a moat. His pen scratched furiously across a yellow legal pad, pausing only when Professor Tanaka's slides flickered with equations on superposition states. There was something in Carson's posture, a coiled intensity, a man not merely listening but wrestling with the knowledge before him. His eyes, when they lifted, held a flicker of dread, as if the quantum mechanics on display were not abstract theory but a map to something unspeakable. The symposium program listed him as Dr. Dennis Carson, Johns Hopkins, retired, with no presentation title or abstract. I knew his name from the early 90s, when his papers on neural network patterning had reshaped consciousness studies. Then silence. Rumors had swirled through academia. Burnout, mental collapse, or, more tantalizingly, government recruitment. During the coffee break, I watched him navigate the crowd with practiced evasion, filling a styrofoam cup, nodding politely, then slipping away before conversation could take hold. His conference badge hung askew on a rumpled Oxford shirt, as if he'd slept in it. The contrast between his disheveled appearance and the meticulous notes I'd glimpsed intrigued me. That evening, in the hotel bar, I found him nursing a scotch, his conference materials spread across a table like a battlefield. I approached, my own drink in hand. "Mind if I join you, Dr. Carson?" Mark Hadley. His eyes narrowed, studying me as if I were a specimen under a microscope. "Carson. Dennis Carson," he said, his voice low, cautious. "I know. I've read your work on neural cascades. Brilliant stuff." I sat without waiting for permission, emboldened by curiosity. "I've been incorporating some of your frameworks into my research on quantum coherence in microtubules." His posture stiffened, the glass in his hand pausing mid-rotation. "You're working on consciousness research?" The question was sharp, almost accusatory. "Not directly," I said, sipping my drink to mask my surprise. "I'm a quantum physicist, but the overlap with neurology is fascinating. The potential quantum nature of consciousness is a side interest." Dennis stared into his scotch, the amber liquid catching the bar's dim light. "There's a reason I left that field, Dr. Hadley." "Mark, please," I said, leaning forward. "And what reason was that? Your papers were groundbreaking, then nothing after 94. His gaze flicked up, sharp and searching. "Career change. Nothing dramatic." The answer was too smooth, too rehearsed. "Into what?" I pressed. "Private sector. Pays better." He waved a hand dismissively, but his eyes betrayed him, darting to the bar's shadowed corners. I shifted tactics. "I've just submitted a grant proposal looking at quantum fluctuations in brain activity during near-death experiences." The effect was immediate. His hand froze, drink halfway to his lips. Something flickered in his eyes, recognition, then alarm. "Near-death research," he whispered, his voice barely audible over the bar's murmur. "You think that's clever, pushing into that territory?" "It's hardly unexplored," I said, confused by his intensity. "There's decades of research." "All wrong," he interrupted, setting his glass down with deliberate care. "Wrong methods, wrong conclusions, wrong questions." His eyes scanned the room, then his watch. "I should go." He gathered his papers, hands trembling slightly. "Trust me, you don't want to hear what I have to say." "Not here." Before I could protest, he tossed cash on the table and was gone, leaving me with the aftertaste of scotch and a growing unease. The parking lot was nearly empty as I crossed it to my rental car, the evening chill biting through my jacket. A figure emerged from between 2 vehicles. Dennis, his collar turned up, his face pale under the sodium lights. "Dr. Hadley," he said, approaching cautiously. "Mark, I apologize for my abrupt departure." "No need," I said, though his nervous glance toward the hotel suggested otherwise. "Listen, would you have time to talk privately? Tomorrow evening, perhaps." His eyes, shadowed and hollow, searched mine. "Your room or mine?" I asked. "Yours," he said quickly. 8 p.m. room 412. Another glance over his shoulder. Please don't mention this conversation to anyone. He turned and walked away, shoulders hunched against more than the cold. The next evening, I tidied my hotel room for the third time, unsure what to expect. At 8:12, a soft knock came. Dennis entered, scanning the room before stepping fully inside. Do you mind if I check something? He asked, pulling a small device from his pocket. An RF detector, the kind used to sweep for bugs. He moved methodically, checking light fixtures, the television, the baseboards. Is that really necessary? I asked, keeping my tone light. You'd be surprised, he said, pocketing the device after completing his sweep. He looked worse than the previous day. Shirt wrinkled, tie loosened, hair uncombed. He declined my offer of the minibar and sat on the edge of a chair, rubbing his hands nervously. I worked for the government, he said finally. From 1987 to 1994, a classified program. I nodded, waiting. We were recruited under false pretenses, told we'd be advancing medical science. His eyes dropped to his hands. We were initially, but the project's true purpose became something else. What kind of project? I kept my voice neutral, though my pulse quickened. Dennis looked up, his eyes clear and focused. We discovered something about death, Dr. Hadley. Something no one should know. You mean what happens after death? Precisely that. He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. And it's not what anyone thinks, not what anyone hopes for. Despite my scientific skepticism, the conviction in his voice sent a chill through me. This wasn't the rambling of a conspiracy theorist. There was a methodical certainty in his tone, the weight of someone who believed every word. I know how this sounds, he continued. I was like you once, rational, evidence-based, skeptical of anything beyond material explanation. He pressed his fingertips to his temples. I wish I still was. Why tell me this? Your research, the direction you're heading. He shook his head. You're getting too close to areas that will draw attention. The wrong kind. From whom? The government. Yes, and others. His gaze drifted to the window, then snapped back. I can't explain more tonight. It's not safe. He stood abruptly. If you're serious about understanding consciousness at death, contact me. But know that once you start down this path, there's no going back. He handed me a business card with only a phone number in blue ink. This is a secure line. Use a public phone, not your cell, not your office. And mark, watch for patterns, electronic malfunctions, dreams of darkness. If they start, contact me immediately. Before I could respond, he was gone, leaving me holding the card in a room that suddenly felt too small. Over the next months, I tried to dismiss our encounter. I returned to Stanford, buried myself in quantum coherence studies, and filed Dennis Carson under interesting but unstable colleagues. But curiosity gnawed at me. I traced his publications, brilliant works on neural patterning that stopped abruptly in 1994. Employment records showed a government position, then a vague consulting role with pharmaceutical companies. In February, an encrypted email arrived, the sender anonymous but the content unmistakable. An obscure journal article on quantum consciousness, with a single line, consider the implications for transition states. More messages followed, scientific papers, Eastern European research, scanned religious texts on afterlife concepts. The tone grew frantic, annotations shifting from scholarly to paranoid. In June, I called the number from a payphone outside campus. I've been receiving your materials, I said when he answered. And what do you think? His voice was thin, stretched. I think you're trying to tell me something without actually telling me. Not over the phone. Pause. Have you noticed anything unusual? Electronic devices behaving erratically? Dreams? No, nothing like that. Good. That's good. He exhaled. I'm compiling everything, documentation, evidence. When it's ready, we'll meet somewhere safe. The calls grew sporadic, the messages more rambling. By November, a 3:17 a.m. call woke me. They found me, Dennis whispered, his voice barely audible. I don't have much time. Do you still have that card? Yes, somewhere. On the back, there's an address. Cabin outside Missoula. Come as soon as you can. Tell no one. Use cash. Switch vehicles if possible. Dennis, you're scaring me. Maybe you should go to a hospital. No, the sharpness made me flinch. No hospitals, no police. No one can help with this. A hollow laugh. I need to tell someone before it's too late. You're the only one who might understand. I agreed, more out of concern for his mental state than belief in his claims. The next morning, I packed a bag, telling myself I was checking on a troubled colleague. But beneath the rationalization, something else stirred. The pull of forbidden knowledge. The suspicion that Dennis's terror might be rooted in something real. The gravel road to Dennis's cabin was barely a track, my rental sedan, swapped at a small airport as he'd instructed, struggling against the incline. Montana in December was a stark monochrome of snow and pine under a slate-gray sky. The cabin appeared at the road's end, a weathered structure nestled against the treeline, smoke curling from its chimney. Nothing about it seemed unusual, just a remote retreat. Before I could exit the car, the door swung open. Dennis stood silhouetted against the warm light inside, but even from a distance, he was changed, gaunt, unshaven, with the hyper-vigilant posture of prey. Get inside quickly, he called, scanning the forest behind me. I grabbed my duffel and trudged through ankle-deep snow. Did anyone follow you? He asked, eyes fixed on the treeline. No, I did everything you said. Cash only, switched cars, no phone calls. He nodded, ushering me inside and securing the door with 3 deadbolts and a heavy metal bar. The cabin's interior stopped me cold. Every wall was a chaotic collage of newspaper clippings, scientific diagrams, printed emails, and religious symbols. Crosses, mandalas, stars of David, intricate sigils I couldn't place. Red string connected points in a web of associations. Security cameras in each corner fed to a bank of monitors. A signal jammer hummed in the corner. You've gone off the grid, I observed. As much as possible, Dennis said, pouring coffee from a kettle on a wood stove. He added whiskey to both mugs. For the cold, he explained, handing me one. The cabin was heated, but a persistent chill lingered. He gestured to a worn sofa. Sit. You must be exhausted. I sank into the couch, the coffee's warmth spreading through me. Dennis remained standing, too restless to sit. I appreciate you coming, he said. Not many would have. I wasn't sure what to make of your calls, your emails, but you clearly believe something significant is happening. Not believe. No. He rubbed his hands together. I've been debating how to tell you this. Where to start? The beginning usually works. He nodded, taking a long drink. The beginning. 1987, Johns Hopkins. I was working on neural revival after traumatic brain injury, making real progress. He unlocked a cabinet with a key from around his neck, removing a folder bound with elastic bands. They approached me at a conference. 2 men, government types, no specific agency, said they were assembling a research team for a classified project. Very convincing about humanitarian applications. I opened the folder to find heavily redacted documents, government seals, signatures, dates partially visible. Project Threshold. I read from a title. Yes. Dennis's voice tightened. 30 researchers, neuroscience, medicine, physics, biology, even philosophy and religious studies, housed in a facility 40 miles from Area 51. Officially, we were researching methods to extend the survival window after clinical death, heart attacks, drowning, trauma. The public-facing purpose was emergency protocols. He handed me a laminated security badge with his younger face and photos of a desert facility built into a hillside. The badge's holographic elements were sophisticated, hard to fake. And the real purpose? I asked. To investigate what consciousness experiences during death. His words hung heavy in the air. We developed a protocol, proprietary drug cocktail, controlled hypothermia, electromagnetic stimulation. It allowed us to induce clinical death and reverse it. You were killing people? My voice rose despite my effort to stay neutral. Dennis's voice sharpened. We justified it because our subjects were terminal patients, volunteers who believed they were receiving experimental treatment. They signed waivers, but the language was deliberately obscure. We told ourselves we were advancing science. The moral weight was staggering. Even if you could induce and reverse death, how could you document what consciousness experienced? That's where the breakthrough came. Dennis paused at the window, peering through the blinds. We discovered genetic markers, variations in COMT and coma genes, that allowed some individuals to retain memories from clinical death. About 17% of subjects had these markers. The wind picked up outside, branches scratching the cabin walls. Dennis froze, head tilting toward the ceiling. After a moment, he muttered, "Just the wind." He checked each window, adjusting blinds to eliminate gaps. "They're more active at night," he said quietly. "Who's they? What?" His expression was deadly serious. "The entities. The ones listening from the other side." I set down my mug, struggling to maintain neutrality. "Dennis, maybe we should continue this after you've rested." He checked his watch, seeming to collect himself. "Yes, you're right. You've traveled all day. There's a bedroom through that door, bathroom attached. Fresh sheets." He gestured to a white noise machine on the bedside table. "Use it. It helps block them out." "Block what out?" "The whispers." He turned away, ending the conversation. "Sleep well, Mark, while you still can." The bedroom was sparse. Navy sheets, wooden dresser, heavy curtains. I switched on the white noise machine, its static muffling Dennis's restless movements. Lying fully clothed, I stared at the ceiling, wrestling with his story. The rational part of me cataloged explanations, paranoid delusions, PTSD, substance abuse. But the authenticity of his badge, the clinical precision of his methodology, gnawed at me. Beyond the door, Dennis muttered, checking locks. Sleep came reluctantly, filled with dreams of hospital corridors and faceless researchers. Morning brought the smell of coffee and the sound of shuffling papers. Dennis sat at the kitchen table, surrounded by meticulously labeled folders. His eyes were bloodshot, but his hands were steady. "You look like hell," I said, accepting the coffee he offered. "No whiskey this morning. We need clear heads," he said, gesturing to a chair. I organized everything. Evidence I smuggled out before they shut us down. "How much trouble would you be in if they knew you had these?" "Prison would be the least of my concerns." He pushed a folder toward me. This is where it began. 37 test subjects, all terminal pancreatic cancer, late-stage ALS, glioblastoma. Months to live at most. The folder contained photographs of ordinary people, clinical profiles attached. "They thought they were volunteering for experimental treatments," I said. "That's what we told them." His voice cracked. "A chance to contribute to science." The truth was, we were systematically killing them. He opened another folder, detailed protocols, drug cocktails, hypothermia techniques, electromagnetic suppression. The sophistication was chilling. "Complete flatlining," Dennis continued. "No brain activity. Then revival using electrical stimulation and chemical compounds. It worked in 60% of cases. The rest died permanently." He pulled a folder marked with a red stripe. "These are debriefing transcripts from subjects who recalled their experiences." The pages were heavily redacted, but enough remained. "They all described the same thing?" I asked. "With remarkable consistency. Conscious void. Absolute isolation. No light, no sound. Just awareness trapped in timeless darkness." His voice grew distant. Seconds of clinical death felt like eternities of solitary consciousness. I read, my coffee cooling untouched. Subject 17, a former Methodist minister, described it. "It wasn't dark. That implies absence of light. This was absence of everything except my thoughts. No body, no time, just me, alone with torturous thoughts. Felt like decades." He attempted suicide post-revival, fracturing his skull against a restraint bar. Subject 23 fell into catatonia. Subject 29 begged for permanent death rather than face the void again. "We started with excitement," Dennis said, his laugh bitter. "Proof of consciousness beyond death. We thought we'd find heaven. Instead, we found something worse than nothingness. These could be neural misfirings, I offered. Hallucinations from oxygen deprivation. That's what we told ourselves. But the consistency across subjects, different backgrounds, beliefs became impossible to ignore. The void waits for everyone. He stood, pacing. The government increased funding, wanted more data, more subjects. They expanded parameters to test if the experience varied by belief, culture, method of death. And did it? No. The void is universal. His eyes were haunted. That's what broke us. He pulled more files. The psychological effects on the team were severe. Dr. Landon had panic attacks, feeling the void waiting when he closed his eyes. Dr. Wilson obsessed over religious texts, searching for contradictions. 2 researchers committed suicide. Dr. Mitchell drove off a cliff. Dr. Thorne shot himself after burning his notes. Dr. Kendrick was institutionalized after sabotaging equipment. He collapsed into his chair, face ashen. We pierced the veil, thinking we were expanding knowledge. Instead, we destroyed humanity's hope that death brings peace. The folders before me pulsed with dread. My scientist's mind sought alternative explanations, but a deeper part recognized the horror in the accounts. You understand why I left? Dennis said. Why I've been hiding. This knowledge changes everything, how we live, how we face death. The government classified it not just for security, but because they knew what it would do to society. Outside, winter shadows stretched across the snow. The implications were devastating. If consciousness persisted in an isolated void, what did that mean for existence? There's more, Dennis said quietly, reaching for another folder. Subject 36 changed everything. Dennis prepared canned soup, the normalcy jarring against the cabin's chaos. We ate in silence, the weight of his revelations pressing down. Clouds dimmed the afternoon light, casting the cabin into shadow. Dennis's eyes darted to the security monitors. You said it gets worse, I prompted. How? He sighed. We should sleep. You're exhausted, and tomorrow will be difficult. I didn't come all this way to wait. That night, he gave me a sleeping pill, insisting I'd need rest. I woke to heavy snow. Dennis at the table, staring at a folder marked 36 in faded red ink. Coffee's hot, he said, his voice hoarse. This is what I brought you here to see. He opened the folder, revealing a photograph of an elderly man, Harold Weber, 78, terminal pancreatic cancer. Former theoretical physicist, Dennis said. Worked on quantum field theories in the 60s. He was different. Most volunteers were desperate. Weber approached death with empirical curiosity. Weber requested a 9-minute clinical death, unprecedented. The procedure went perfectly, Dennis said. No brain activity. Then we brought him back. He was calm, unnaturally calm. Everyone else came back screaming. Weber asked for water. Dennis handed me the transcript. Weber's words chilled me. It wasn't empty. Something else exists there, ancient, vast, before our universe. A consciousness of anti-existence, intelligent, hating all living things. It became aware of me, of what we're doing. It's imprisoned there, unable to enter our reality until the universe collapses. Then it will consume everything. Weber committed suicide that night, slashing his carotid artery with broken glass. Before that, he covered whiteboards with equations, cosmic entropy, modified quantum field equations, strange symbols. The program terminated Project Threshold immediately, Dennis said, showing me photos of the whiteboards. They destroyed materials, dispersed personnel, imposed NDAs. He pulled out a notebook, documenting the fates of his colleagues. Dr. Zhao disappeared in 2003. Dr. Erickson died in a car accident in '98. Dr. Patel overdosed in 2001. 17 are dead, 14 by suicide. His hands trembled. They weren't running from the government. They were escaping the entity's attention. He played a cassette from 1997, his sleeping voice speaking layered languages, some dead, some unidentifiable. It happens monthly, he whispered. Linguists couldn't explain it. He showed VHS footage from 2003. a shadow moving independently in his Seattle home, distorting electronics. Each incident corresponds with research into the void. It notices. I stood, needing to move. Dennis, there could be explanations. Interference, power fluctuations. I know what I've seen, he snapped, slamming his fist on the table. He softened, voice barely audible. I know what I've seen. That night, Dennis refused sleep, watching monitors, shotgun nearby. I dozed fitfully, waking to his mutterings, equations like incantations. Around 3 a.m., the power failed. Dennis sat facing a corner, eyes fixed on nothing. It's watching us right now, he whispered. Right there. I saw only shadows. There's nothing there, Dennis. It's been watching since you arrived. Now it sees you, Mark. It knows you. His voice was calm, detached. It exists between thoughts, between heartbeats, behind closed eyelids. The monitors went dark. Dennis's laugh filled the blackness, hollow, broken. Now it begins for you too. The watching, the waiting. Welcome to the rest of your life. Morning brought sunlight, but no relief. Dennis was calm, unnervingly steady, preparing coffee as if nothing had happened. You felt it last night, he said. It's a tension. Something happened, I admitted, but that doesn't mean. We're past that. He opened a folder with schematics of a shotgun. Remington 870 Tactical, purchased 4 years ago for this purpose. He discussed suicide with clinical detachment, detailing how neurological destruction could prevent consciousness from transitioning to the void. I've cross-referenced near-death experiences, quantum theories, theological texts. Hindu, Tibetan, Egyptian rituals all suggest disrupting consciousness at death. He revealed correspondence with 3 other threshold survivors, planning a coordinated suicide at 3:17 a.m. the following Tuesday. If we're right, simultaneous destruction of 4 consciousnesses might disrupt the entity's hold. A voicemail from Dr. Elaine Chan, the project's director, confirmed the entity had found her. Dennis handed me a sealed envelope. Instructions, coordinates, access codes. If you experience the phenomena, electronic malfunctions, dreams of darkness, burn it unopened. If not, continue the research. Protect humanity. You need to leave, he insisted. Its awareness of you is still tenuous. There's time to distance yourself. Within 20 minutes, he'd packed my bag, urging me toward my car. Yesterday, I needed you to understand. Now I need you to survive. As I drove away, Dennis stood on the porch, raising a hand in farewell, his expression one of profound peace. 3 days later, a detective called. Dennis was dead, self-inflicted gunshot at 3:17 a.m. His cabin walls were painted with symbols in his blood. I sat in my Missoula hotel room, staring at the envelope. It knows your name now. The sensation of being watched lingered, intensified by the memory of that dark corner. Back at Stanford, sleep became treacherous, filled with dreams of endless blackness and a vast, patient presence. My grant proposal sat unfinished, my office feeling alien. Colleagues noticed my distraction. I locked my door, documenting everything. Dennis's files, the phenomena. I searched for threshold researchers. Most had vanished from academia post 1994. I contacted Dr. Samuel Rhodes, a neurologist who'd consulted on threshold. His response was curt. I don't discuss that period. I mentioned Dennis, and he agreed to meet at the Fairmont Hotel in San Francisco. Rhodes, mid-50s with white hair, was guarded. Carson was paranoid, he said, swirling his scotch. Trauma from unethical experiments. 12 suicides among project personnel, I countered, all destroying their brains. 17 now, he corrected, sliding a thumb drive across the table. Personnel files, my notes. Better you have data than Carson's paranoia. He warned me against contacting Weber's daughter, Olivia, who'd buried 3 researchers. Don't think about the void too much. Obsession creates its own reality. Ignoring him, I located Olivia Weber-Brennan, a mathematician at Johns Hopkins. Her Baltimore townhouse office was lined with her father's equations. You shouldn't have come, she said. 4 researchers visited. 2 killed themselves, 1 disappeared, one's in a Tibetan monastery. She confirmed Dennis's suicide synced with others on February 17th, 3:17 a.m. Olivia shared her father's unredacted journals, detailing his persistence theory, consciousness as a quantum field surviving death. He encountered something in the void, she said, something ancient that became aware of us. His final entry, it knows too much now. I must eliminate the neural architecture it's tracking. In Princeton's archives, I found Weber's early work on negative existence and active negation of being. Correspondence with Dr. Anna Morris, a hospice nurse, revealed patterns in dying patients' final words. It's empty but aware. Something's waiting. Morris had documented over 1,500 cases, consistent across cultures. Weber believed consciousness transitioned before death, glimpsing the void. Morris met me in Philadelphia, her binders filled with patient statements. Weber was calm after his experiment, she said. He said my patients were right. Consciousness persists, but not as religion promises. She experienced the same phenomena. Malfunctioning electronics, dreams of darkness. Call me when it starts happening to you. That night, my laptop died, then displayed. I see you, Mark. The sensation of being watched overwhelmed me. I opened Dennis's envelope. Coordinates in Nevada, a silver key, and it knows your name now. In the bathroom mirror, my reflection's eyes seemed too dark. In Ely, Nevada, the coordinates led to a storage unit. Inside, a lead-lined box held Dr. Jillian Zhao's documents, unredacted threshold files, microcassettes, her journal. Her letter read, "The entity can be opposed, perhaps defeated." Her journal theorized the entity as a non-corporeal consciousness in a parallel dimension, feeding on awareness. She proposed disrupting quantum entanglement patterns at death to prevent capture. The cassettes detailed countermeasure prototypes, quantum field generators to break consciousness anchors. The final tape was Zhao alone. The others are gone. The prototype is incomplete but functional. This technology must survive. Shadows moved in my motel room, independent of light. My phone displayed, "I am still watching." I packed the box, determined to continue Zhao's work. Back at Stanford, I founded the Quantum Consciousness Research Foundation, officially studying consciousness, privately developing countermeasures. I encrypted the evidence, distributing fragments to trusted colleagues globally. The phenomena persist. Moving shadows, electronic glitches, dreams of a hungry void. But I refuse to surrender. In our lab, we built Zhao's first prototype. That night, my television cycled to static, whispering patterns. I faced the darkness. I know you're watching, but I'm watching back. This isn't the end, but the beginning of a fight to protect humanity from what waits beyond.